Okay, hello everyone. Just gonna wait just another minute to see if anybody hops on here for this. Hope everyone's doing great today. All right, we are gonna start it off here. Just a couple introductions. My name is Kale. I am the Human Resource Manager for Project Solutions here in Rapid City, South Dakota. I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to hop on today. It's great to speak with you about, some subjects that we're very passionate about here. We also have on the line who will be presenting today, Jillian Watkins. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jillian. And just in the meantime, if you have any questions throughout this webinar here, please put it in either the chat or the question box. And I can make sure that those questions get to Jillian to have answered for you. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Jillian Watkins and I'm the HR recruiter here at Project Solutions. Today we're going to discuss finding your organization's greatest asset, people. So some topics that we're going to go over today are when and how to hire additional employees, job descriptions, recruitment tools, interviewing process, and then also the offering and hiring process. So one of the most important tasks in your business is workforce management. This means ensuring that you have the right people and the right number of people to keep your company running smoothly. So there are some clues that will help you identify when it's time to hire additional employees. These clues may include when employees are overworked or they have too much overtime, letting you know that they have too much to do or that they would like to take on more tasks or spend additional time on current ones if only they had the time. Your task is to determine if they are legitimate by looking at attendance and productivity. Another clue is when you are losing time on non-essential tasks. Additionally, you may need to open a new job when new skills are needed. You could train your current staff to learn those skills, but it might be more efficient to hire someone who is already experienced with these skills. Then you need to ask yourself what position is needed, like what do I need to open, and what duties and responsibilities will be grouped together. This will help you when creating or refining a job description for the position or role. Finally, once you have answered these questions, it's time to start your talent search and find qualified candidates for this position. So in 2021, the top 5 recruiting priorities were improving the quality of the hire, increasing retention rate, improving time to hire, growing the talent pipeline, and diversity hiring. These are important to note because as an HR person and a recruiter, it all comes down to your talent pool and recruiting for your needs. Additionally, quality, retention, and time to hire are great key performance indicators to ensure that you're recruiting talent effectively and efficiently. So next we'll talk about the job descriptions. As stated earlier, before you open a position, you'll need to create a job description. There are no federal or state laws that require you to have job descriptions, but they could be helpful tools for both practical and legal reasons. Job descriptions are a simple tool to accurately reflect the duties and responsibilities of a position. When well written, it produces a realistic picture of the job and it answers the question, what does this person in this role actually do? So why we use job descriptions, along with being great recruiting tools, they also help with a variety of reasons like determining salary levels, conducting performance reviews, clarifying missions, establishing titles and pay grades, and creating reasonable accommodation controls. A job description not only describes the position's responsibilities, it sets the foundation for recruiting, developing, and retaining talent, and also sets the stage for optimum work performance by clarifying the responsibilities, the expected results, and the evaluation of the performance. They're an important component to maintaining an equitable compensation system and ensuring legal compliance. So that's a brief overview of what they are and why we use them. Now you may be asking, what should I include in my job description? So some things that you should include would be a general description of the job, including the duties, objectives, essential and non-essential functions, the knowledge, the skills, and abilities, and make sure you're being specific with those, whether it's an exempt or a non-exempt status, reporting structures, measurable duties. So an example of that would be responsible for turning in daily reports to the manager and assisting with monthly report for prime. That's just an example. And then this will help with setting clear expectations for the job. There are many recruitment tools at your disposal to help with your recruitment efforts. It's important to take the time to research HR software or websites that can streamline the entire recruitment process and work best with your recruitment needs. So a few methods to find top applicants. There are many ways to find qualified applicants. Putting a job posting out on a recruiting website is one of the most common ways in 2022. In 2017, 7 out of 10 people use Google to search for job openings. So it's important to research websites to help you because that's the main way that people will be looking for jobs. Searching for job openings online is very common, and there are many types of recruiting software that will assist in the creation of a good job description, as well as get your posting viewed by more potential candidates, and that will expand your candidate pool overall. There are different types of HR software that will link your job opening to multiple recruiting websites automatically, which will help streamline the process and save time in the recruitment process overall as well. Another way to find the right candidate is through active recruitment, such as Indeed or LinkedIn or other websites, to reach out to candidates that have posted their resumes online and have qualifications that you prefer. Job fairs are another great way to get your company's name out there. They can be great to meet applicants because most individuals that are at job fairs are typically looking or actively searching for a new job. And if they're not, you'll still be promoting your company's name in the process. Lastly, you could hire someone internal. Hiring internally can be beneficial because the individual already knows the company, they know its values and its culture and its environment. And also the individual already has relationships within the company as well. So these are some examples of some cost-effective job posting websites. So businesses can expand a talent pool by 10 times by recruiting through employee networks. So some examples of these would be LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Monster, Glassdoor, Indeed, Facebook search, Google, and even Craigslist. So when you try to pick websites to help as a recruiting tool, be sure to research which one will best suit your recruiting and hiring needs. Many of these websites have the same core function, but they vary slightly in the overall product that they provide, going down to the job postings, the candidate sourcing, pricing, and screening questions. So just be sure to look into that before making any decisions. Next, we'll talk about the interviewing process. So once you've filtered through the applicants and found which ones may be a good fit for the position, you'll move into the interviewing process. Types of interviews. There are several types of interviews, but these are just the most common types of interviews. The pre-screen interview, the direct one-on-one, the panel style interviews, those are the most common types. So pre-screen interviews are great to assess whether an applicant's qualifications, experience, skills, and salary align with the position and the organization. The pre-screen typically does not last very long, but it can be very informative. One-on-one interviews can be approached in several ways. The most common ways are behavioral, competency-based, and situational-based questions. So behavioral, that's when the interviewee is asked to provide examples from their past employment and specific situations and go through how they behaved in those circumstances. Competency-based questions, they are designed to test one or more skills or competencies. The interviewer has a list of set questions, each focusing on a specific skill, and the answers will be compared against predetermined criteria and marked accordingly. On some recruiting websites, they have assessments that you can use and send out to your applicants as well. Situational based questions, that's when the candidates are asked specific questions about how they would handle a certain circumstance at their job. The candidate is then asked to assess the situation and provide solutions on how they would handle it. Panel interviews are when 2 or more people are conducting the interview, and they'll all ask the candidate questions individually. Usually it's a question and answer type style interview, but it can also include a participation on activities, assessments, or tests. The number of interview questions you should prepare depends on what stage the candidate is in the interview process. So the initial phone screen or pre-screen interview, those are often 20 to 30 minutes long, which means it's a good idea to prepare about 5 to 10 questions and then allow time for questions to be asked. For longer in-person or video interviews or the panel style interviews, come up with at least 10 questions. Make sure that they're open-ended questions as well, and expect to ask 6 or 7 within the hour. If the candidate is not the right fit for the position or the organization, make sure that after the interview, you inform them that they weren't selected for the role. We don't want to leave them hanging, and this allows for potential future opportunities with this candidate if they align with a different role better. So now we'll talk about preparing and conducting the interview. When preparing and conducting the interview, it can all be done in a variety of ways. It's important to keep some basics in mind so that we maintain consistency. So first, you want to start off by introducing yourself. I've also found it's very useful and appreciated to take the first 5 to 10 minutes at the start of the interview to build rapport with the candidate. This helps to loosen up the interview nerves, make them feel more comfortable, ask how their day is going, if they had any trouble finding the interview location, and if they'd like a glass of water before starting, if it's in person, of course. When the candidate is more comfortable, they're likely to be more detailed in their responses because they feel more comfortable there. Give an agenda of what to expect during the interview before you start and a brief review of the job that they applied for. And then when starting, start with generalized questions and ensure you ask questions that facilitate discussion. So basically avoid the questions that require a yes or no answer and use open-ended questions that start with what, why, how, or describe. When asking the open-ended questions, be sure to include behavioral interview questions so that the candidates can elaborate on their skills and experience and display their ability to tackle challenging topics as well. These types of questions will allow you to assess the candidate's critical thinking and also their communication skills. Make sure that you're asking some consistent questions, review their resume beforehand, and also ensure that you have it on hand during the interview so that you can reference back to it. Make sure that you're taking notes. Those can later be added to the employee's file. And then give the candidate a chance to ask questions because the purpose of the interview is twofold. First, to obtain as much information as possible in order to assess whether or not the applicant will be a good fit for the position and the company, but also to take the opportunity to sell the company to the candidate. That means being persuasive but realistic. Provide a timeline once you're done with the interview as well, so that they know the rest of the recruitment process and they know when they should expect to hear back from you. Now that we've talked a little bit about preparing for the interview and conducting the interview, we'll talk through the legal guidelines that you should consider before going into the interview. So laws that protect the workers are the Americans with Disabilities Act and Civil Rights Act of 1964. Individuals involved with the interviewing process should be familiar with both federal and state laws that preclude certain questions. So as I said before, laws that protect the workers include the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Federal and state laws require that companies make employment decisions without regard to protected categories. These categories include race, age, religion, sex, sexual orientation, national origin, disability, marital status, genetic information, and other categories. Basing your hiring decisions on these protected categories would be in violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So staying in compliance with these laws will help your company overall stay out of court for one, but it will also strengthen the company by creating a healthier atmosphere free of the damaging aspects of discrimination or harassment. So a few examples are warranted. You cannot ask how old someone is during an interview. Instead, you may ask whether the person is over the age of 18. Even when asking when somebody graduated from high school elicits someone's age. An applicant's genetic information and questions about family medical history are also areas not allowed to ask about. Similarly, you cannot ask whether someone is disabled. Instead, you may ask if the person can perform the essential functions of the job to which the person is applying. Questions about family status. So an example of this would be whether someone has children or has made childcare arrangements during the work hours, or the applicant's marital status. Those are not job related, so they should not be asked. In the hiring process, the goal is to gain as much information from the applicant while respecting the federal and state laws. The guiding principle behind any question to the applicant is whether the interviewer can demonstrate a job-related necessity for asking the question. So make sure that the person that's doing the interview is familiar with the position requirements, and a good rule of thumb to follow to ensure that you're not crossing that legal line or staying within the guidelines is just, if it's not job related, don't ask the question. So once you've recruited and interviewed candidates and selected one that fits the position or role best, and also the culture of the organization, it's time to make a job offer and continue with the hiring process. So now you need to ask yourself, will you conduct a background check, a drug test, or other assessments before making your final selection? If you do choose to do one of these things before or use any of these evaluations, you need to make sure you're checking with federal and state laws and regulations. So in many states, employers have the legal right to test applicants for drugs or alcohol, but they also need to provide these applicants with the knowledge that they are testing, and ensure that they know that it's part of the interview process for all employees and not just for some. In most cases, the testing cannot be conducted until the applicant has been offered a position. And with the background checks, you must remain in compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, or FRCA, or FCRA, by making sure to send an email to the candidate outlining the areas that you will be doing the background check on. And then you also need to attach a document to stay within the guidelines of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And that document is just for them to sign and confirm their consent to proceed with the background check. So if you're conducting a reference check, you need to make sure that you have policies and procedures in place to manage the process. So many states regulate what an employer can say about their former employee. These are described as the employment reference laws. Always be sure to check what you can and can't ask. An example of some legal questions that we can ask would be, how do you know John Doe? Would you rehire John Doe? Would you recommend any training for John Doe? Again, these are just some examples for our state, but be sure to check what you are legally asked to ask in your state. When conducting a reference check or acting as a reference, it's best practice to document the name, the title of the person whom you spoke with, the date of the conversation, and then what information was given or received. So next we'll talk about extending the offer. When extending an offer, you need to cover important details like the job title, the compensation, and expected start date, and also benefits. Make sure that the job offer is placed over the phone first, so candidates can get the chance to bow out if they have accepted another offer. It allows for a quicker negotiation process, if any, and then they can also verbally accept your offer over the phone. Again, there are many templates online that you can use for job offers, but if you need any help with that, PSI is always here to help you with that. So this is just an example of a template that I found online So some key things to note from this offer letter example are the job title up here, the position title, the company name. It talks about compensation down here. It says that the benefits will be outlined in the handbook, all those things. And this one also has the start date as well as what to expect on the first day and where to go and who they'll be reporting to, which are all great additional information to throw in there. It's important to remember to have all the information regarding the position on hand when you're extending the offer. By doing so, it ensures that you are prepared for a negotiation process if they choose to negotiate with you with salary or start date, something similar to that. And if they decline the offer, then you won't be as caught off guard. If they do decline the offer, simply just thank them for their time and then let them know that in the future that you would be open for conversation if they choose to change their mind and see if the position is still open. When offering the job over the phone first, you can sometimes catch people's voicemail. In this case, make sure you just leave a message letting them know to call you back when they have a chance so you can extend the offer to them and not to their voicemail. So that is recruiting and hiring in a nutshell. If you have any questions at this time, I would love to have an open discussion.
All right, thank you. First, I just want to start by thanking Jillian, our subject matter expert here on recruit and hiring at PSI. It looks like we don't have any questions at this time, but connected to this webinar here, you can see Jillian's email. Feel free to contact us at any time if you do have any questions or if you are looking for any resources. We hope that you were able to take away some information from this webinar today. And again, we want to thank you for taking the time to hop on with us. And we hope to hear from you soon in the future. Thank you so much.